Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Distribution Weekly demo for August 12th, 2021. I'm doing the demo today, and the item I'm demoing is what I have spent some time working on this week as a deliverable, and that's around adding the ability to provide SMTP credentials to the GitLab application via encrypted secrets. This is targeted for use in source installs in Omnibus. On the cloud native side, we already make use of the Kubernetes secrets to provide something like this and rely on the underlying Kubernetes secrets infrastructure. But yeah, this is for other cases, and this is still a work in progress merge request. But I was just going to walk through demoing how it ends up working. So I have an instance that's just booting up here, a local Docker instance that's making use of this development MR. And once it is fully up, we'll be able to start working with it. Okay, so it is up, should be available locally on my machine. And we will go ahead, and this is not configured with anything at the moment. So just a default Omnibus Docker image running. We'll go ahead and change the config file and enable SMTP. So I'll be using Mailgun for the demo today, and I've created a user and generated a new password that I'll regenerate again after this meeting. So it's not a big deal to show the password in the demo, because it'll be swapped out at the end of the meeting. So I'm going to point this at Mailgun. Initially, I'm just going to show it without the encrypted settings. So when we're regularly setting this up in Omnibus, we have to put everything here in the GitLab RB, including the username and password. So I'll go ahead and throw in the config for my Mailgun setup here. And I'll throw in the username and password right in here to start. So SMT mail is a little different from a lot of the other things we configure, as this already doesn't go into, like, most of the Rails configuration we do goes from GitLab RB into the GitLab YML in the Rails project. The GitLab YML in the Rails project actually doesn't have any SMTP settings available in it. For SMTP in the Rails app, what we rely on is actually introducing users, or when you're in a source install, you're supposed to introduce a new initializer into the program that sets up Rails's active mailer configuration. In the case of charts and Omnibus, we build this initializer ourselves and throw it into the folder. So I'll just show you that file basically, so you can see what the setup looks like. That is a little weird. I think that might be the only one we do that way, where the Omnibus or charts actually are like adding something to like the code directories. So it's added in the Omnibus embedded services into the initializers under this SMTP settings RB. So this is actually a file that's generated by GitLab CTL reconfigure, and otherwise in a checkout of the Rails code base doesn't actually exist. But it configures the action mailer. And we see we just have our username and password set in there from the settings I put in. We're not going to do anything with those at the moment because we're going to move them into encrypted settings. So we're going to get rid of these and get rid of the sensitive information. You can, for encrypted settings, you can decide that your username isn't sensitive and just provide the password through encrypted settings if you want, or you can decide that both are sensitive. Drop them. We'll reconfigure again. Now we'll have like a non-working SMTP setup. Well, actually, you can see what it ends up doing. So when you don't provide it through Omnibus, it now pulls from these in-app secrets, which we don't have provided. So these will actually be returning email. So if we try to send an email right now, we would get an auth error. But we're going to go ahead and set these up. So in our encrypted secrets that we introduced last year for LDAP, we kind of set up a standard for how we were doing these. So these SMTP, or we set up not a standard, but a precedence for how we were allowing users to edit these secrets. So we're doing it through the rake tasks at the moment. So it's the new one here is under this rake task. The one we added last year for LDAP credentials was under just this LDAP syntax. So we've added this one here. And then you can specify as a flag which text editor you can use. I think in the Docker image by default, we already have the editor flag set in the environment, so I should be able to just run the rake command and be presented with an editor for setting the secrets. Yep. So it comes with a default template that kind of gives you the keys. Says the file has been encrypted and saved. The file is located in the shared storage directory under encrypted settings. This is a configurable path, but this is also where the LDAP one is usually stored, so it gets stored here as an encrypted file that the application loads and decrypts with the encrypted settings key, which was something we added last year, encrypted settings base key. So once you've got it set, you would, in order for it to actually be picked up by the application, you'd have to restart the application. In the case of email, only Sidekick makes use of it. So we would only have to restart Sidekick for it to start making use of these new settings. But a few more things on the command. These are all the same as the LDAP one. There's a show command to just see the plain text without editing it. Each of these commands has to bring up the Rails environment like any of the other rig tasks. But yeah, we can see the plain text. There's also a write command, if you spell it right, that you can pipe the input into for it to write it. If you have the plain text coming from like another key management system or secret management system, you can be, piping from that system into this system. That's how we kind of add support for people bringing in these things from other systems where they already have these secrets. Is they could be, if their system supports like listeners for like on change from the server or something like that, that they can, whenever the key changes, they can have a script that then pipes the key into the to our version of the secrets, and then they can restart Sidekick or flag that it needs to restart or something like that. Yeah, so kind of the final thing is actually sending an email and seeing that now works and calling from encrypted secrets. So we'll load up the Rails console, and we'll just do a test notification just like we have in our documentation for SMTP for testing the configuration. I guess the other thing we can see is that from the application side, that even so, these passwords weren't in plain text in that SMTP settings file on the file system. It was just calling it the settings.username settings.password. But in the running application, they look like this. So within the running Rails application, they've been decrypted and are available just as their normal settings to the application. So we'll just test an email. So from the application side, it says it went through. On the mailroom side, you can refresh here and we should see another one come through here. Yep, there it goes. So yeah, that's the demo for the new feature. It's built on top of our existing encrypted credentials in the Rails application. So it's largely just exposing the new secret file for configuration, and adding in because we don't have an existing place for SMTP secrets or SMTP settings, because they're a whole new file that we expect Omnibus or charts to adding in a new config that has support for fetching from the secrets if you haven't provided anything else. And then we did, because this is only the second command we added in this MR, the LDAP one had all the logic for what the rate commands look like. So everything that was common that would be used among multiple commands got extracted into this base file. And then the end result is that new commands are like kind of basically look like this, where you just set what the command name is, the display name, where it's getting its encrypted secrets from, and then what the default template is. And then set up the rate task and then some tests. Yeah, so on this MR, the remaining items are docs and usage ping, and then this one will be ready for review. And then it needs an accompanying MR on the Omnibus side, which I've already been working on, that just makes use of those, actually adds what we saw, those secrets settings to that SMTP settings file. And that is it. Does anyone have any questions about the SMTP credentials or the encrypted settings?
Now it looks like great iteration from the previous work. I'm picturing the next one even being simpler based on what you showed in the MR. It's nice.
Yeah, if there's no other questions, I think that's it for the demo. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, DJ.